Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to talk about cold protecting plants here in the late winter coming into spring, where we get one of these. What we've had here is a false spring. We had about 2 weeks of 65, 70, even 80 degree temperatures in my area, and a lot of things got to growing. And now we're going to have a 22, 23 degree night on Saturday night. Of course, this kind of temperature is, relative to where you live. So if you had 22 degrees and you're in zone 5 and nothing is awake, who cares? Or if I had this 22 degree night a month ago, it's 22 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way. If I had this a month ago when everything was dormant here in Raleigh, North Carolina, again, that would be fine. But again, we had about 2 weeks where everything started to grow. And I have a few things in this landscape that either are in open flower or have jumped ahead a bit or are barely hardy in this area, and I want to get those things protected. And I want to talk about containers as well. I won't be able to answer every question you have in your mind in this video, so you can ask questions down below and I'll try to answer those over the next couple days before this cold gets here. I know even my friends down on the Gulf Coast in like Mobile, it's supposed to be below freezing. For them, they're almost past their frost free date and they're getting an actual freezing temperature around 28, something like that. So it appears to be most of the southeast where things are waking up. I'll start here and just discuss this blueberry, which I showed in a video a couple days ago, is in full flower right now. And so I'm definitely going to throw a cover over that. I'll show you some cover options in just a minute. The other thing I want to protect, well, again, it's open flowers. My daffodils here, which are actually kind of difficult to protect, are along the driveway, and they're all, flowers are open or in the process of opening. I do have some containers I can throw over the top of those. I'll show you that in just a second, if I decide to protect them. My bulbs that are not showing any color, I don't worry about at all. So these tulips, which are just breaking the ground here, they're pretty daggone tough, and I'm just not going to worry about them, or any daffodil or any crocus or hyacinth that's not showing any color yet. The foliage is usually pretty tough. It's the open flowers that I would worry about. This pansy bed, because it was super cold, it got pretty cold in January, was really set back. It's finally coming to life. I may actually drape a frost protection blanket across this. I'll show you that in just a minute. One thing I'm not going to worry about, and I'll just cut across here, all of my deciduous plants. So this American beautyberry here, I've got lilacs, hydrangea paniculatas, butterfly bushes, any of those things that lose their leaves in the wintertime that are starting to wake up, I don't worry about those. Those plants are really tough and they always jump ahead anyway. Most of my evergreen shrubs are smart enough typically to have not started growing this early, so I don't have to worry about those. But I'll show you a few things here along the way that I will be covering. And so let's cover the materials that I use. I keep lots of things around to protect plants with, from blankets and sheets and frost protection blankets and shade cloth. I'll show you all of these, how I'll go about using them. Containers are great for covering bulbs. And so something like this hyacinth right here that's in front of me, this container works perfect for going over the top of that. And that's about all I need for protection. I've got larger containers if I need them, which again, just work absolutely perfect for, covering up a bulb. Unfortunately, these hyacinths are so close together that the containers are somewhat tedious to get in there, but it can be done. That's probably all those need to be protected. Again, this pansy bed, this frost protection blanket is absolutely the perfect thing for it. These are, I would invest in these if you do a lot of gardening, especially vegetable gardening. This will add 5 or 10 degrees of protection to these pansies, and it's just a light, it's a frost protection blanket. It's what it's called. Obviously, I'm not going to go to the trouble of stretching this whole thing out right now, but you can see, just lays over the top. It's such a light material that it doesn't weight down, doesn't hurt your plants. This will also work over bulbs as well, so it's a good investment to have, kind of inexpensive material as well. Then I've got all kinds of towels and blankets. Fitted sheets probably make the best material for covering things. I've got an Indian hawthorn over here I'll show you right now. one of several plants in my landscape that I would call marginal in my area, which just means I'm in zone 7B here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and this is a zone 8A or 8B plant, is this Indian hawthorn. Absolutely beautiful, has fragrant clusters of pink flowers. Because it's a zone, below mine, it just jumps out growing the first 80-degree day we had, and the flower buds are actually swelling on it. So I want to protect those here in the next few days. I may even have a little damage on a couple up here on the top already. But this fitted sheet works really well for this type of plant. I don't leave it on here for a long time. It needs to, the wind obviously becomes a bit of an issue when you have a sheet on top of something like this. But this little bit of protection right here is likely all I need to protect this through the night. I will not get every single, square inch of it protected, but again, that should be adequate. And again, this fitted sheet works a lot better than a non-fitted sheet on a taller plant like this. So a few other things to keep in mind. One, I wouldn't start covering well in advance of the cold. So Saturday night is supposed to be my peak cold night. I'm not going to cover way in advance of that because we'll have wind in between now and then. We'll have rain in between now and then. Usually when when it settles down to that low temperature, the wind will die down. I would actually like it to be breezy because that typically mixes up the air and doesn't allow it to get quite as cold. So when the wind dies down late on Saturday afternoon is when I'll come out here and cover these things. I'll kind of have them out here ready, staged to put on so it doesn't take that long. One of my evergreen shrubs that has gotten way ahead is this cast in bronze Distilleum. It's absolutely covered in new growth. I've got a towel for this one that I've pulled out. It may not actually be quite big enough, but I wanted to show you, a simple towel on an evergreen shrub like that will go a long way to keep it from being damaged. Another thing that people like to use is trash bags. Make sure that if you're using some sort of plastic covering like that you get out there pretty quickly that next morning once the temperature comes up some and get those plastic bags off, because they can form a greenhouse and really, you can go from protecting them from cold to heat damage, by the middle of the next afternoon. So just in this general area, in the back garden space, I've got an upright holly that is well hardy in my area, hasn't started putting on any new growth, doesn't even need to be thought about. I've got a conifer over here, a weeping deodar cedar. No problem with conifers whatsoever. I've got my deciduous shrubs, a couple hydrangea paniculatas, a butterfly bush. They're waking up. Again, I'm not dealing with those. I don't need to do anything to these deciduous plants that are just waking up a little early. They'll be fine. If they get nipped a little bit, it won't matter. I do have a palm in a container, and this is a shade cloth. I actually bought this for the greenhouse that's back here behind me, a project that I'm working on. This little shade cloth will just add about 5 degrees of protection to this palm overnight. It'll be perfectly fine under that. It hasn't started to put on a lot of new growth, so it should be fine regardless. I've got a fatsia and one other palm over here. Again, they're zone 8 plants and I'm in zone 7. Those are plants that I'll address as well. I'm on the back steps, completely surrounded by things that I'm going to bring into the house on Saturday evening. I've got a lot of little small containers that I've purchased, things that are going to go into the landscape here in April. Some of them came out of a greenhouse. This little pittosporum has a ton of new growth on it. It just goes in the house. That way I don't have to worry about it at all. And agave, obviously, you saw me unboxing in a video. Those things are going to go into the house. I've got a Laura petalum in a container. It's flower buds on it. It's going to go in the house. Azalea, this azalea, other than it being in a container, wouldn't need to be protected because it doesn't have any open flowers on it yet. But it's in a container, so I'm going to protect it here. It's going into a container project I have coming up. So all of your containers, it's a little late for for those to be freezing solid out in the landscape. So anything you've purchased at this point, I'd put it in a garage, put it in a shed, bring it into a screen porch at least, or pack them together up against the foundation, throw a sheet over them if you've got it, that kind of thing. That'll offer about 5 degrees of protection. That should be perfect for your things that are still in containers. I have not planted my cool season vegetables. I've got this tray of lettuce that you guys saw me seeding maybe 2.5 weeks ago. They look great. They haven't gone in the ground. If they had gone in the ground, I would be throwing, putting the containers over the top of them like I showed you in the front garden. That works great for vegetables. So these are cool season vegetables. These would actually be able to tolerate a mild freeze without any problem. What wouldn't tolerate any kind of freeze is anything you've purchased that's like summer annuals. A lot of the stores at this point will have put out things like begonias or tomatoes or peppers or a lot of those summer things. If you have any of those, I would almost consider in a freezing situation to pull those back out of the ground if you happen to have planted them already, or if you bought a hanging basket too early, that kind of thing. Any of those things, I'm bringing them inside because those are tropical plants. Tomatoes are tropical plants if you happen to have purchased them already. It's way early too, I hope you haven't, but if you have, those things definitely need to be protected. So that's generally my game plan. I'm protecting things that are marginal or barely hardy, or things that have fully open flowers on them that I want to continue to see the flowers on. I'm protecting all of my containers, and I've got a pile of things, from containers to fitted sheets to towels to frost protection blankets to shade cloths, anything I can do to throw over that'll gain me about 5 degrees. So if you have particular questions on plants that you have in your landscape, ask them down below and I'll try to get them answered in the next couple days. Thanks for watching.